We are absolutely committed to slowing the spread of this pandemic, providing resources and relief to working families, and we remain committed to expanding justice, equity, and prosperity for all Arizonans. Now I want to hand it over to Lito Rios to take you through our comprehensive COVID-19 plan. Senator?
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Senator Rebecca Rios, Democratic leader. Legislative Democrats are working for all Arizonans, and we have developed a comprehensive COVID-19 response for the 55th legislative session. We stand ready to work with the governor and our Republican colleagues in the 2021 legislative session on immediate common sense solutions to help Arizonans navigate the final months of the pandemic. We have the ideas and resources to make a difference. We began our work today ready to pass a comprehensive plan that streamlines Arizona's ineffective unemployment insurance program, fixes inaccessible housing assistance programs, expands access to childcare subsidies and food programs, and helps small businesses stay afloat until our economy stabilizes. We must also provide better protection for frontline workers, children, and teachers as Arizona reopens its economy. This is how we start. The most important COVID-19 response at this juncture is working to ensure the efficient, fair distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine statewide. Every day this pandemic continues, Arizonans are struggling to cope. We must streamline Arizona's overly complicated and ineffective unemployment insurance program. It's then crucial that people stay home during this pandemic. We must provide more funding for rent and mortgages, extend the eviction moratorium, and streamline the application process for assistance. It's a common sense public health necessity. Many of Arizona's small businesses have been left behind in this pandemic, while corporations take an unfair chunk of relief funds. We must ensure that our local independent businesses are not left behind. Jails and prisons throughout the state continue to be hotspots for COVID-19, putting the prison population, correction staff, and surrounding communities at risk of an outbreak. We propose expanding compassionate and earned early release options. Arizona families now more than ever need a helping hand, and parents need their children cared for in a safe and healthy environment. To support these hardworking Arizonans, we must appropriate the $88 million in federal child care funds. And we must provide child-only cash assistance, or TANF, to families who need it. We invite our Republican colleagues to step up and join us. It's time to reimagine an Arizona with a strong foundation that works for everyone in our state. And now I'd like to send it back over to Representative Bolding, who will cover our non-COVID related priorities. Representative Bolding.
Thank you, Senator Rios. We do see other areas where we can potentially work together in a bipartisan way to move our state forward. One real opportunity that we should move on right away is criminal justice reform. For years now, we've had bipartisan support to reduce the 5th highest incarceration rate in the country. We've been held back by powerful special interests and individual chairmen who blocked it. With the new Criminal Justice Committee in the House, we hope to finally move a reform agenda out of the House and hopefully through the Senate as well. Climate change is having a devastating impact on our state. Democrats will fight to protect our public and tribal lands from exploitation. We will ensure that we clean up polluted sites in low-income communities and prevent the overdumping that we consistently see of our precious groundwater. We also pledge to fiercely defend democracy and election integrity this session. Faith in our democracy was put to the test. Seditionist efforts to overturn a free and fair election based on lies persist to this day. Attacks on our voting rights of Arizonans must stop now. Every community in Arizona relies on law enforcement to serve and protect. And every community deserves the same level of service and protection. Among our proposals to improve transparency and accountability of police forces around the state are a few different components. We believe that there should be body cameras for every officer at DPS, a statewide officer disciplinary database so bad apple officers can't jump from one agency to another, and limits on qualified immunity to allow law enforcement officers to have the exact same type of actions that you can take with any profession, such as doctors, for harmful actions carried out while on duty. Finally, it is time to say no more to the decades-long assault on women's rights and equality. Our agenda will level the playing field for women and make Arizona a stronger and more productive state. Democrats support rolling back laws that have eroded reproductive rights, and we support increased healthcare options for Arizona women, gender pay equity, and the Equal Rights Amendment. And we will fight to ensure no person in our state is fired or faces discrimination because of how they identify or who they love.
We remain stalwart in our commitment to the core values of supporting Arizona's working families, uplifting the voices of the underrepresented, and protecting democracy for all. We will advance these values while working to protect our staff, stakeholders, and visitors to your legislature until COVID-19 is no longer a threat. And with that, we will be happy to take some questions. I'm going to go ahead and in the chat, it looks like we have a question from Barbara Villa. She would like to hear of our concerns surrounding security and the volatile situation that remains following the Capitol riot in these days leading up to the inauguration. Any concern local rallies may get out of hand? Representative Bolding.
So thank you, Barbara, for that question. What we see right now is there's protest outside of the Capitol. Anytime you're talking about security and safety, it's important for us to acknowledge that there is a risk that not only lawmakers but staff actually take every single day when they enter the Capitol. We have made sure that we have reached out to security, we've reached out to DPS to ensure that we don't find ourselves in a position that we seen back in December and even what we saw in Washington, D.C. We have to make sure that everyone is able to participate in democracy without the fear of retaliation or without the fear of harm.
And I think the only thing that I might add to that is I think that this is being taken seriously at the state capitol. I think the addition of the fencing is an acknowledgement that there unfortunately is the potential sometimes for violence and for danger. And so I am happy to see that it has been taken seriously and that they are working hard to ensure that the public and the staff and everybody at the Capitol hopefully will be safe. Thank you.
And I see Nathan Brown has a question. Can you please go into some more detail about your criminal justice reform proposals for this year? And I can start and then I'll throw it over to Ms. Rios. So one of the things that we've seen with regards to criminal justice reform, not only police reform, but also just the system reform, is that there has been conversations around earned release credits and how do we ensure that we're only locking up those offenders who need to be there, that we are actually treating drug and substance abuse as just what it is, and not as dangerous, violent offenses. So for us, we'll be ensuring that we are looking at the entire system, not only from incarceration, but also what's happening inside of our prisons, but also how do we actually end to a rehabilitation system that we actually can have the ability so those individuals who are being released can be productive members of society. So we'll be covering all aspects of criminal justice reform this year.
Thank you, Representative Boulding. I think you did a great job addressing that. I would just add that I think that there has been support in a bipartisan way. You know, both sides of the aisle want to see criminal justice reform. So I am hopeful that this year we can get something over the finish line. There's a question from Andrew Oxford. Are there any particular changes to this year's session that you are concerned will limit the public's ability to participate? I'll go ahead and start, and then Representative Boulding, if you want to add on. I think that has been a concern of Democrats. We want to ensure that the media, the public, anybody that wants to participate in this legislative process be afforded that opportunity. To that extent, we have been assured that there will be the possibility for folks to participate remotely on Zoom. Much of the attendance will be on Zoom, even by legislators, either within the committee or from their office, but there will be the availability of folks to log on and to provide, input electronically and over the internet. Obviously, if that is hampered in any way, that's something that we will be keeping our eye on, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be legislating in a vacuum. We want to ensure that anybody and everybody that has a position on legislation going through the process, that they have their opportunity to have their voice heard.
Yeah, I mean, along that line, we know to participate through the legislative process is one in which it's not very easy for people who haven't had access or who haven't used our systems prior. So what we know and what we're seeing is, because of the hybrid committees, the virtual committees, there are additional rules in place that people just may not be accustomed to. So I can tell you, as members of both the House and Senate caucus, we'll do whatever we can, and we plan to communicate with the public just how they can participate. And we would hope that that's actually taking place from in the media as well. So there's systems in place where you need to, email to be put on a list to testify. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, that anyone who wants to participate in their democracy, they can. We don't believe that health and safety should limit participation in democracy. We should have both a health and safety environment and also allow individuals to participate. And I'll go ahead and jump into the next question. Mark Phillips, when you shared your priorities with the governor Friday, what was his reaction? Do you think he is open to supporting any portion of your agenda? Ms. Rios?
The governor made a commitment to work with us in a bipartisan fashion. As with any session, we enter it hopeful, and I think all working and committing to that. At the end of the day, though, it remains to be seen, right? I think he recognizes the need that is out there. I think we did a good job expressing that. But whether or not it happens, I think, is going to hinge largely not only on the governor, but on our Republican colleagues and the extent to which they also prioritize our COVID-19 priorities. There's opportunities to get more assistance out, and I'll just roll this in. There's another question with regard to our COVID proposals, increasing unemployment insurance and rent relief, and how do we plan to accomplish those goals if GOP leaders are uninterested? It's a numbers game, and it always has been here at the legislature. What my hope is that our Republican colleagues are aware and acknowledging that Arizonans are suffering, and this should not be a partisan issue, and that whether GOP leaders agree or not, we have the numbers with legislators alone to come together and really push forward legislation that will help all of our constituents, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or, not registered with either party. And so at the end of the day, I think there is the opportunity to get this done. But a lot of that is going to hinge on, I think, the public making their position known in terms that they also expect the legislature to act, and to put that pressure on all of us, to make sure that we follow through. And then ultimately, the opportunity will be there for the governor to follow through and sign off on legislation in a bipartisan way that helps all of us.
Yeah,
Representative Bolding?
yeah. The reality is this past electoral cycle, what the public said is that they want a legislative body, they want a state, they want lawmakers who are willing to work together. We have the closest margins in both the House and the Senate in decades. As we know, that there is a one vote difference between Republicans and Democrats in both the House and Senate. And what we are seeing and what we have to see is that if the public is saying that we believe, 51% of our lawmakers are from one party and 49% are from the other, we want them to actually come together. And we have always had an open door, and we will continue to have an open door, because we know that these priorities are much larger than any political party. So we are calling on the governor, we're calling on the speaker, and we're calling on the Senate president and all members of the caucus, the Republican caucus, to work with Democrats. We want to get things done. That's what we were sent here to do, and that's how we plan on operating.
Okay. There is a question from Bud Foster, KOLD. Do you support taking action against the Republicans who attended the attempted insurrection in Washington last week? Representative Bolding, would you like to weigh in on that?
Thank you for that question. It's a question that I know many people have on their mind. It's a question that I know that we hear from the public, and people are they're disappointed, quite frankly, in many elected officials who pour gasoline on the flames to create an environment here in this state and in this country in which it got to a place where we lost the life of a Capitol Police officer. And that is something that I take serious. That's something that our caucus takes serious. And that's something that all Arizonans and Americans take serious. So we are open to a number of different actions. No option is off the table. Our caucus, we'll get together and we'll have conversations about it, because it's extremely important. Anytime that you have a member who took an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution, who takes action against that oath, that is extremely serious. So no option is off the table.
And just to add to that, I think as most Americans, I think many of us are still reeling from what we witnessed in Washington, D.C. I mean, clearly it was the most un-American behavior that you could ever display. I think many of us have been inundated with phone calls and emails from constituents demanding that there be accountability for folks that, help to agitate and rile up that situation. So I believe that there is a responsibility, and again, as Representative Bolding mentioned, that's something that we'll be looking at, because at the end of the day, I think constituents want to be assured that there is accountability, and more importantly, that something like that never happens again. I don't see any other questions. However, we will be available through our offices, through our media representatives as well. Feel free to contact us later. And with that, I think we are ready to close. Thank you all for coming and participating.
Thank you.